If he had solely focused on hunting instead of secretly snacking, his kill count would have ballooned by a few hundred more. While Roland was in his tent, he asked if the commander was truly part of the support force. Roland assumed that he was about to get bullied for being a supporter. Jin wasn't going to do that, though. He was just mistaken and thinking that Roland was the flashy fighter type. His expectations were very much subverted. Commander Roland admitted that in his heart, he's the kind of man who desires to wield his sword on the battlefield. But the main reason he joined the Order Alliance was to fight for peace. Countless people have lost their homes and loved ones because of the demonic realm's expansion. In a cruel world like this, he chose to play a role that would be most helpful to the most people. As a swordsman, he's only slightly better than average, but his musical skills are considered top tier. Jin was surprised to hear Roland's motivations. He thought the man would be an annoying dude obsessed with geniuses. In truth, he was just a decent person who was doing his best to benefit humanity. Jin's respect for the commander rose sharply after their conversation. 7 days have passed. The 10-day deadline is fast approaching for the quest. The expedition force had made significant progress, advancing deeper into the north while destroying numerous rift cores along the way. They've faced all kinds of monsters, kobolds and rabbit beasts. You name it, they've killed it. The deeper they infiltrated the expanding demonic realm, the stronger the encounters became. Miraculously, the soldiers' morale was even higher than when they first began marching. Out in the front lines, one man was carrying the workload of an entire army by himself. He slashed through monsters effortlessly. No matter what kind or what size, Jin cut down every monster that dared to stand in the way. He wasn't slaughtering these beasts out of the goodness of his heart. He was, of course, aiming for their juicy monster cores. Unfortunately, he had been extremely unlucky. Over the past week, every core he bit into was a dud. Commander Roland received reports of Jin's exploits on the front lines and was flabbergasted. He could not help but laugh that an entire army was getting outdone by a single mercenary. The Order Alliance's pride must be bruised by now. One of the Holy Knights asserted that this wasn't a laughing matter. Their soldiers have become far too lax, while Jin has been amassing an ungodly number of performance points. Roland chose to view this as a positive thing. Thanks to Jin's reliability, they barely have any casualties so close to the 10-day mark. Their destination is just right around the corner. It would be best to get some rest while they still can. Deep in the demonic realm, a nightmare blunt rotation gathered for a very important meeting. The Dark Priest Summit is in session. A masked man was displeased by the progress the Order Alliance had made over the past few days. Well, they practically led the humans to their base by planting so many rift cores around. The witch nun who turned the golden bug siblings into an abomination insisted that their chosen youngest sibling had already placed countermeasures for this exact scenario. Surely he won't disappoint the rest of the group and prove himself competent. The one she called the youngest firmly believes that defenders always have the advantage over attackers. Those pesky humans reacted slightly earlier than expected, but nothing in his great plan of shadows had changed. On the following day, Commander Roland was presented with a venomous dilemma. In front of them was a dead end, a massive chasm decorated by an intricate weave of extra-durable spider webs. Lurking below the darkness were giant spiders the size of a small car. According to the priest, the demonic realm's corrupted energy is concentrated in the massive hole before them. In his many years of service, Commander Roland had never heard of such a place existing. It was quite bewildering to behold a giant chasm inhabited by monsters lurking in the dark. Sensing their presence, the critters made their move. Jin approached the commander with a tinge of doubt. It seemed a bit strange that evil forces would choose a chasm to hide. Normally, it would be more advantageous to fight from high ground. Roland assumed the depth was for the sake of avoiding exposure, but a tunnel would have worked far better for that. In Jin's opinion, this whole operation smells like a trap. Before they could explore that idea, everyone's attention turned to their flank. Something big had breached their lines. They were tossing and beating soldiers up left and right. They were besieged by a bunch of wild Bigfoots. In this world, Bigfoot is an enormous monster that grows 4 to 7 men tall, boasting immense strength. The biggest Bigfoot leading the charge was draped with a venomous snake monster around his neck, a Salamosa. The level of disruption the sadistic white-haired Bigfoot could deliver was immense. At one point, it literally lifted a section of the ground, knocking every soldier off their feet. It was a deliberate effort to toss the pesky humans down the chasm. As soon as the poor souls landed on the sticky web, it was as good as over. GG. They tried to break free of the web's sticky hold, to no avail. Mere moments later, the architects of the web structures showed up. Hungry spiders sensed some prey stuck in a trap. Now it's time to feast. Commander Roland made the swift call to prioritize taking down the Bigfoots to prevent any more of his men from falling into the murder hole. He and his holy choir set up buffs and all kinds of support magic to strengthen the team. While everyone was freaking out and fighting for their lives, the real demon watched with a grin on his face, instinctively seeing him as the biggest threat in the entire army. The Bigfoot chieftain violently gravitated towards Wujin. He dodged the first attack coming his way, letting Bigfoot's uppercut go wide. Commander Roland and the soldiers stared at Jin's predicament in horror. The largest of the pack wasn't only the strongest, it was using that troublesome snake as a weapon too. Eventually, Bigfoot succeeded in bringing the fight into the hole. It would be a shame if Jin died from fall damage. Thankfully, he was able to save himself by using his blade to stick to the walls. After that, finding a safe foothold was surprisingly easy. Jin looked around, and the Bigfoot chief was effortlessly using the webs like it was a fun obstacle course. It has the strength to one-shot people, and the mobility to utilize the precarious terrain to its advantage. Willingly facing a Bigfoot in close combat would be insanity. To make matters worse, that ape somehow learned to use his snake's venom for long-range harassment, like it's a gun. The more abilities the Bigfoot demonstrated, the bigger Jin's smile grew. All he could see were coveted abilities that he could steal by consuming their delicious monster cores. Right then and there, he lost his footing and fell, only to be caught by one of the many winding webs. Before Bigfoot could catch up again, he cut himself free from the sticky situation and dove deeper below. The beast showed how agile it can be, yet Jin was toying with it without a proper foothold. Normally, when two monsters join forces to fight, their strength doesn't just add up, it multiplies. But in Jin's eyes, those kinds of monsters share a common weakness. Just as it's tricky for the opponent to face two monsters at once, it's equally difficult for monsters to treat two separate bodies as one. He's got the Bigfoot chief right where he wanted that brute to be. When exposed to danger, a wild monster will eventually rely on pure instinct. That's when they become terribly predictable. Bigfoot tried to crush him with another missed fist, opening an opportunity to counter. Instead of going after the big bad ape, Jin beheaded the Salamosa snake first. The venom launcher didn't know what hit it. Seeing his comrade's head separated from its body, Bigfoot groaned in distress. It was pretty much over at that point. Jin just demonstrated how to effectively hunt two synergistic monsters at once, with its overall combat prowess diminished. The Bigfoot was slain handily, its head cut off to match the snake's bloody end. The Bigfoot chief's body made an explosive thud as it fell to the bottom of the chasm. After beating the Zero boss, Jin Aura farmed for a second, even though no one was watching. Overall, it was a pretty decent fight for a gatekeeper. Abruptly, the snake's essence mysteriously wafted to his position. The peculiar essence was clearly emanating from the monster's exposed core. It was a strange feeling, but not odd enough to stress over. For Jin, the hunt always ends with the prey's monster core in his hand. Without hesitation, he munched on that snake ball like he did countless times before. Surprisingly, ingesting the whole core in just a few bites led to him bleeding from his orifices. Once that reaction subsided, he was granted one of Samosa's abilities was the peculiar essence he felt connected to distinguishing which cores offer inheritance. He has devoured so many of them that it won't be strange to get all sorts of crazy abilities. The snake's inheritance alone would be a fine addition to his arsenal. Jin was very excited to take a look at what kind of ability he had gained, but he might have to test whatever it is in a real fight real soon. A raging ball of fire lit up the bottom of the chasm as it traveled from one of the many caverns below. Jin saw the ball of flame heading straight for his ass and reacted accordingly. The one who cast the spell reveled at the sight of the beautiful explosion. The youngest member of the Dark Priests has shown himself. Assuming that Jin was vaporized by the blast, he laughed at Jin for acting so relaxed in enemy territory. His laugh rapidly halted when he heard someone clicking his tongue in frustration. From the flames, a man emerged unharmed. His clothes were burned off, but his unnaturally durable, scaly skin remained untouched. Jin was rather upset about getting this new defensive ability instead of a venom launcher. He was more bothered by it than the flame that tried to burn him to a crisp. Once he finally paid attention to his surroundings, he noticed the loser responsible for burning his clothes. He quickly got over not getting the ability he wanted. The tough skin already saved his ass. After all, it seems pretty useful. It is certainly an ability worth further investigation, but he would prefer not to test the armor against a direct hit again. Jin picked up his sword and physically cut through another flaming mass of mana. This time, he set his sights on the loser, trying to ruin his day. The fight isn't over yet. Witch Hat Crackhead couldn't believe that some random topless bum blocked his attack twice. He's heard about Jin before. The Dark Priests labeled him a crazy bastard who hangs around humans while openly gorging on monster cores. To match Jin's freak, he tapped into the power that made shadowy priests so powerful. He is going all out by unleashing the spider legs attached to his spine, Spider-Man style. Instead of spamming fireballs all day, he took on Jin in close combat. On paper, it was an unfair fight. It was one dude with a sword versus a man with 8 extra limbs made for killing. After the first exchange that forced Jin to back away, he re-evaluated his opponent. This was his first time encountering another person using a monster's inheritance freely. If this man were the same as him, then he might have gotten those deadly attachments by consuming a spider monster's core. Witch Hat has been waiting to face Jin since he heard about him. He's so thankful he could cry. Apparently, his abilities extended to controlling the spider monster population residing in the hole. This certainly complicates things for Jin. The critters maintained a safe distance from their target, letting their long-range attack do the work. Some spiders can spit fire, and some can spit poison gas. Combined, the fire and poison concoction was an attack he could not simply ignore. The firepower was intense, and its effects would be harshly lethal for any other fighter. Unable to contain the barrage any longer, Jin was consumed by the stink fire. The explosion it produced reached all the way up to the surface, alerting Commander Roland. Despite tanking a finishing move with nowhere to run, Jin survived through grit and excellent defense. Witch Hat Crackhead was fascinated by the fact that he survived. He's never met a human who could withstand his perfectly orchestrated direct hit before. At this point, it would be a stretch to call Jin human. His Salosa armor was cracked in many places, but the flesh below only suffered minor burns. Admittedly, he was caught off guard by how potent the combination of poison gas and fire was. As expected, shadowy priests aren't to be underestimated. After softening him up with stink and heat, Witch Hat threw himself at Jin. Using his sharp spider legs as retractable weapons, he engaged the barely recovered enemy. Based on the crazed smile on his face, it looked like he was having the time of his life. He's been itching to test out his close combat prowess against someone who could pose a real challenge. The spider's legs gave him an unfair advantage over a single sword. It was becoming increasingly apparent that Jin needed to change strategy. He can't keep blocking and parrying. Using mana arts, Jin enhanced his blade. With that extra injection of power, he was able to parry a spider leg attack and briefly stun his opponent. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to capitalize on the stun since this fight was never a one-on-one to begin with. Just when he was starting to turn things around, the fire and poison gas attacks restarted. Once more, Jin was forced to endure being grilled with some poisonous seasonings. Frustrated, he thought of dealing with the annoying spiders first. But that won't be easy with a dark priest constantly on his ass. Currently, his internal organs have sustained severe damage from the fire. His regeneration and stone skin abilities kept him standing, but they are reaching their limit. And this time, Witch Hat didn't wait for him to emerge from the fire. He got in there to press the attack. Gradually reaching his limit, Jin thought of a batshit crazy plan to get out of this hell. Witch Hat flexed his spider legs and used them to riddle Jin's back with holes. The pain and damage was so debilitating that he lost grip of his blade. Feeling his spider legs digging into flesh, Witch Hat rejoiced. He laughed like a maniac while holding Jin in place and gradually making the gnarly wounds bigger and bloodier. He's never met such an intriguing enemy before. Now he understands why the other dark priests wanted to leave the guy alone. Despite his precarious position, Jin fought extremely well. He blocked unstoppable attacks and even used mana arts. He's definitely too valuable a talent to kill. It would be a waste to let him bleed out. So, the dark priest graciously released his agonizing grip on Jin. Instead of fighting each other to the death, Witch Hat wanted to offer him a very special offer. All Jin has to do is join the shadowy priests, and his life will be spared. Hearing that, while slowly bleeding to death made him scoff, Witch Hat insists his offer wasn't too bad. At the end of the day, he believes that people who inherited skills are special. Those ordinary humans, with nothing special going for them, are the ones trying to forbid the power of inheritance. They will try to kill anyone they suspect of being a dark priest. Witch Hat assured Jin that there will come a time when he won't be treated any differently than someone on the dark side. Up to this point, he's just lucky to be hanging out with the relatively chill Order Alliance. When the wrong people learn of his ability to use monster cores, they will no longer see him as human. So, Witch Hat is extending a hand to a fellow freak. Take it, and he can join forces with the same people in the same situation. Not only that, but he's also guaranteed to grow stronger and obtain greater power. Jin just silently listened to the freak yapping and recruitment attempt. He cursed under his breath. If there's one thing he hates, it would be clowns who love talking too much. His pure hatred for yappers awakened a demon eager to teach Spider Creek a lesson. If possible, Jin didn't really want to use one of his hidden cards, but given his current situation, he was left with no choice but to do so. His eyes turned crimson, kicking off a transformation. Malnourished Spider-Man felt something shift in the air, as if some dreadful boss music just started playing. Jin remained seated, but the ominous aura emanating from his body made him unapproachable. Gradually, Spider Freak felt a real threat to his life encroaching. Jin shed his scaly stone skin for better armor. An unknown material spread across his entire body, while the sinister aura intensified. Facing the shadowy priest who pushed him to get serious, Jin had one scathing question to ask. How could a wolf ever serve a dog? Spiderek was tweaking. Who would have thought that the guy who's been eating monster cores religiously was hiding his power the whole time? In a panic, he turned to his children, the spiders, to turn Jin into ashes. Jin responded by bringing down the Hammer of God, heavenly punishment. Black streaks of concentrated mana crowded Spider Freak. While he was busy saving himself, the spiders posted up on the walls were systematically slaughtered one by one. The final black streak, stronger than the previous ones, crushed the Dark Priest by sheer force. He's now realizing how vast the power gap between them truly is. He doesn't even want to imagine what kind of monster core one must eat to get this kind of destructive power. It was as though fate itself was dancing in the palm of his hand. Spider Freak struggled and fought to break free from the crushing pressure. He succeeded after spending everything in his tank to liberate himself. Now every cell in his body was screaming at him to get the out, run, and never turn back. Jin seemingly read his mind, and in the blink of an eye, disappeared and reappeared behind his prey. Spider wanted so badly to run away, but Jin grabbed hold of his spider legs from the back. As if he were cracking a perfectly cooked crab dinner, Jin tore Spider's legs one by one. With inhuman force, he made that loser feel every bit of pain with every single pull. The severed spider legs bled as the dark priest kneeled in defeat. His adrenaline kicked in, giving him just enough energy to try one more escape attempt. The arrogant loser trying to recruit Jin was gone. In his place was a pathetic bug who would say anything to be spared. He asserted that bros who eat monster cores should stick together in this cruel world. They could build something far more mutually beneficial if given the chance. But there's only one kind of help he could offer Jin. He could start bargaining for his life in exchange for information on other dark priests. Spider Freak snapped at him for being a hypocrite. They use the same power, yet he's working and siding with the humans who would abandon him the first chance they get. Jin didn't want to talk about his philosophy. He just wanted answers to his very simple request. Seeing that this incomprehensible entity would actually kill him if he didn't cooperate, Spider showed willingness to snitch on his team. But it was too late. Jin deemed him far too much of a hassle to deal with. He already gave the loser one chance to save his ass, but he didn't take it in time. As a result, Jin overloaded his very being with vicious manner. Spider Freak's last words before he was deleted were a pathetic curse directed at his killer. Heavenly punishment lived up to its name. Jin erased that bug from existence without leaving a body. With the threat neutralized, he gradually deactivated the mysterious monster form. Before he could shed the gray scales completely, blood oozed out of his holes. He casually wiped the bloody leak from his nose, mouth, eyes, and ears. When the accumulated damage from the battle caught up to him, Jin's body shut down. He collapsed at the bottom of the chasm. The exhaustion was unreal. He lost a lot of blood. This is precisely why he wanted to avoid using that particular form if possible. He only used it for a moment, yet the toll it took on his body was debilitating. His eyelids were fried. He knew that once they closed, waking up would be an uncertainty. Thankfully, Commander Roland and some of his most trusted men reached the bottom of the chasm just in time for a rescue. Jin thanked his lucky stars for their timely arrival. It looks like everything worked out in the end. Roland ordered his men to bring a stretcher so they could carry Jin up for the medical attention he needed. The commander looked around the aftermath of the battle, and he couldn't even picture in his head what had happened in this dark corner. Once the mission was wrapped up, everybody involved returned to 3rd Pioneer City. The professionals tried their best to stabilize Jin, and now he's in recovery. When he finally opened his eyes, he was no longer in that dank spider lair. He sat up, feeling intense soreness throughout his entire body. He was just surprised he had survived that encounter with the shadowy priest. While he was collecting his thoughts, a maid entered the room, assuming he was still unconscious. She hurriedly ran away to inform everyone that the mercenary had woken up. The first one to hurry over was none other than Commander Roland. According to the commanding bard, Jin has been out of commission for 3 whole days. That's an awfully long recovery time considering his new regeneration ability was facilitating his healing process. Roland explained that his men had taken care of most of the surrounding rift cores after Jin eliminated the biggest threat. The casualties were minimal, and the expedition was a success, all thanks to Jin. Jin liked the feeling of being acknowledged. But of course, extraordinary contributions deserve an extra generous award. Before they could discuss what kind of juicy compensation he's entitled to, another man entered the recovery room. He was wearing a priest's uniform, glasses that hid his eyes, and spoke with a firm dignity. Behind him were stoic guards. Mr. Glasses represents the Order Alliance, and he would like to take Jin's testimony regarding the expedition. The Alliance wanted to know what kind of opponent he faced and how he fought them in as much detail as possible. When asked why, Glasses insisted that this inquisition is merely for the sake of record-keeping. Given how chaotic the battlefield was, the Alliance cannot simply assume that what happened was a fight between a human and a monster. Mr. Glasses wasn't even hiding his real intent. Jin is under suspicion. He was hoping for a happy ending, but that's just wishful thinking. For this one, Jin thought of a plausible lie to absolve himself from more troublesome business. Thankfully, Elder Bo arrived just in time to handle the Order Alliance himself. At first, the representative refused to budge. He wanted to get answers straight from Jin's mouth. As a result, Elder Bo leaked some of his intimidating aura and ordered them to get the out. Glasses tripped over his words before retreating with his tail tucked between his legs. After driving out the extras, Jin and Elder Bo were the only ones left in the room. Jin thanked the old man for bailing him out. Ever since they first met, Elder Bo had always been very interested in Jin. Sensing a little bit of apprehension, the blind monk assured Jin that no matter what form he takes, he will have Elder Bo's trust. Jin wanted to play dumb until the geyser pulled out a monster core from his pocket. It wasn't just some random core either. It came directly from the body of the dark priest he killed. It was troublesome, but Elder B was able to secretly slip it away. He had a feeling its rightful owner might want it when he woke up. Before giving him the monster core, Ankh gave his boy a fresh haircut and hooked him up with fresh gear, gloves included. After giving Jin a cut and dressing him up, the blind monk was very satisfied with his work. Jin immediately noted the fit of his new armor. It was beyond comfortable. The fabric felt like it was one with his body. If he had known this type of armor was out in the world, he would have gotten his tailored from the start. Elder B told him that comfort isn't the only thing that makes the set satisfying. The true value of this armor goes beyond comfort. Out of nowhere, the old man concentrated mana on his palm and charged at Jin with a full-form strike. The palm touched his armor-covered abdomen, making him step back instinctively. He couldn't believe that this weird old man would dare to punch someone who had just woken up from a 3-day coma. But then he noticed the lack of agony in his stomach. He barely felt a tickle from that charged attack. All force was dissipated because what he's wearing is a relic. Relics are treasures imbued with magic. They are expensive and rare. The weight suggests that the material must be some ordinary beast hide, but it's truly a mysterious item with powerful defense comparable to a full heavy plate armor. Relics like this one are so rare that it would be hard to obtain one, even if you have the gold coins to pay for it. The armor was just one part of his rewards. Presented by Cindy, Jin was awarded a total of 2,400 gold coins. They brought in a chest glimmering with gold bars and ingots, skyrocketing Jin's net worth. He's never seen so much money in his entire life. Elder Bo made him understand that through the countless monsters he hunted, the expedition succeeded. His contributions to the people are far from ordinary, and they entitle him to equivalent rewards. Of course, Cindy added a little extra straight out of her pocket. Jin doesn't mind getting filthy rich off one job. Even so, he wasn't used to being treated so well. In life, he came to learn that excessive kindness can be suspicious. Even though these two know about his habit of consuming monster cores, they continue to support him. Elder B laughed. Even when he treats the kid well, he still gets grief in return. 3 days after the expedition, the entire chasm was cordoned off and guards were assigned to monitor the area around the clock. The night shift guards were feeling lazy and sleepy on the job, not a good look at all. While they were arguing over whether something was moving in the bushes, it happened. The long metal chain wrapped around the guard's neck. It tightened and squeezed hard, suffocating the patrolman. He was yanked away with enough force to detach the head from the neck. An ambush ensued. The laughing maniac who loves the smell of blood under the moonlight cackled. The other patrolman tried to act tough and confront the intruder, but stumbled over his words, petrified. This time, the lunatic used the steel ball at the end of his chain to crush the poor patrolman's skull. With the watchdogs out of the way, the rest of his coven showed up. The dark priests had returned to their compromised hideout. Included in the group was the witch nun. She was lamenting the defeat of one of their own by such incompetent fools. Their youngest, Enoch, was supposed to win, but it turned out that he's complete trash. Witch nun won't waste tears on weaklings. The lunatic who cleared out the guards estimated that they were stronger than low-level knights, at least. The masked priest couldn't give less of a damn about Enoch. He somewhat expected that Spider Bastard to lose anyway. Despite the setback, they're still within the plan's range. Tonight, they returned to their former hideout to get the agenda moving. With a touch of his hand, the masked priest triggered some sort of formation from an inconspicuous cliff face. Ancient runes appeared before them, winding and twisting. Once the formation was complete, it revealed an esoteric symbol, incomprehensible and divine. The cliff face slowly opened, exposing a hidden entrance hiding in plain sight. Tonight's meeting will kickstart the plan to eradicate every filthy human in existence. Behind the hidden entrance, horrors beyond human comprehension reside. An endless supply of human test subjects was strapped to stone altars, ready to be used as guinea pigs. Back in 3rd Pioneer City, Elder B was still hanging out with Jin at midnight. Cindy was there too, just sipping on her tea. Elder B knows he's in no position to reprimand Jin. All he can do is ask for a favor instead. He pleaded with Jin to use his formidable power for the sake of humanity at all costs. Jin thought that if anyone found out about his secret eating habits, he would be hunted and tortured. But he was wrong. Elder B was different. The geyser sees his power to help humanity instead of the opposite. Jin was worried then, but he can only be thankful now. For now, only the people in the room know about Jin's monster core diet. Cindy thought it best to keep it that way, since others would not react the same way she and the blind monk did. As for how exactly he can use his power to help, Elder Bo responded by putting the Dark Priest monster core on the table. From what he knows, consuming a monster core can unlock the memories of its owner. Of course, the probability of that happening is very low. But if a monster core belonged to someone who was originally human, the probability increases drastically. That's precisely why Jin was able to peek into the memories of the Golden Bug's sons. Basically, Elder B wants him to consume the core and find any relevant information about the shadowy priests and their little cabal. With everyone in agreement, they proceeded. Jin grabbed the monster core and felt the weight behind it. Not only did he find people he can talk to comfortably, but he also gets a chance to eat a monster core he thought he missed out on. Partly for the greater good and partly for his own sake, Jin opened his mouth wide. The first bite is always juicy. Blood, bile, and many other bodily fluids explode in his mouth. Instantly, he was transported to Spider's old memories. He was a wretched man who so desperately wanted to be chosen. Instead of living the shitty life of a failure, he begged the witch for true overwhelming power at any cost. To prove his resolve, the witch tempted him to drink from her totally normal vial. Jin was yanked back to reality after that short vision. When he opened his eyes, Elder B and Cindy were waiting for him to come back. Thanks to the fragmented memories he sifted through, he learned the Dark Priest's next